Hey guys, it's Bina, and in today's video, I want to go over the Frostbite Frostclaw build guide. So this is an element-based build. It scales Frostbite and cold damage. Its damage primarily comes from Frostclaw and Elemental Nova. So you're proccing Elemental Nova off of your Frostclaw's attack. The build has insane tankiness thanks to a permanent Cold Fire Cold Runic Invocation, giving you 30% damage reduction, permanent Flame Ward from going through your Frost Wall, and the ability to freeze enemies almost permanently. So while this build does not require any uniques to function, Snowdrifts and Frostbite Shackles are a core part of any Frostbite build. Snowdrift lets you scale cold penetration, while Frostbite Shackle gives you a ton of damage scaling and ward on freeze. So it's a really great way to scale both your damage and your defenses at the same time. Another core part of the build is getting a Tier 7 Scepter with spell damage and reduced mana cost, so it makes Frostclaw cost no mana, making it become a mana generator instead of a spender. It also enables you to cast non-stop, generating more ward and dealing even more damage. So overall, if you're looking for like a cold base build, scaling super fast cast speed, is almost immortal with the ability to almost permanently freeze enemies, this build is perfect for you. Alright, so let's talk about the basic rotation to play this build. So you are casting Runic Invocation on cooldown. You are casting Frostclaw and spamming it to attack enemies and deal damage, which is also scaling your ward generation because you get so much ward on cast. You place down Frost Wall and you go through them with your Flame Rush. That will proc your Flame Ward, giving you access to even more tankiness. So you have like permanent uptime on two really tanky skills, on top of generating a ton of ward with your attacks. It's just incredibly tanky. It deals a lot of damage. Although not the most damaging build in the game, it still does fairly well. And yeah, it's just incredibly tanky. That's the main takeaway of this build, is that your EHP skyrockets as you scale all of those different types of damage reduction stats. Alright, so let's talk about the skills. We're using Frostclaw as our main damage ability. We're using Frost Wall as our support ability. It does a little bit of damage, but like it's mainly there to give us Flame Ward on proc when we walk through it. We have Flame Ward, which is like our defensive skill. We have Runic Invocation, which is another defensive skill that we have to be even more tanky. And we have Elemental Nova. Elemental Nova is only there to be procced by Frostclaw. So, as it is written here, do not put this skill on your action bar. We use Unspect Flame Rush instead, right? So let's go over the skill, the nodes that are important in Frostclaw. We have all of the minus mana cost, because we want the mana cost to be as low as possible and eventually reach 0 mana cost, so that it becomes a mana generator thanks to Gift of Winter with a 12 chance to gain mana on cast. Then we have Volley of Glass here, down here. It increases the mana cost, but it makes Frostclaw's projectiles be able to shotgun all on the same target. So this is incredibly good to stack many Frostbites on every single cast that we do on Frostclaw. So we're getting some Frostbite chance here, and we're going to the left to grab LA Nova chance. So this is the node that will make you able to proc Elemental Nova off of your Frostclaw. And then we're grabbing the other node here for Real Wind's Veil to gain ward per 20% freeze rate multi on every single cast. So this scales our ward generation through the roof, alongside some other different ways of getting ward in our passives and with our items that we'll see a little bit later. Another important one here, Bright Frost. This basically cleanses all elements on you at all times. So with every single cast, you won't ever need to worry about any element, armor shred, bleeds, poisons on you at any time, because if you just attack once, it cleanses them, right? So this is what we're going for. If you have any extra points, you put them in here to grab more damage and more area, which is doubled at least 1,200 ward, which you will be able to get really easily. And then we're going to the Frost Wall. Frost Wall, there's one big thing. It's prepared wards. It's what you now cast Flame Ward on you or your allies if you pass through Frost Wall, if it has existed for at least 0.2 seconds. So this is our way to gain permanent Flame Ward. So you will place down a Frost Wall and go through it with Flame Rush. That will give you Flame Ward and all of its spec tree. So you get all the damage reduction, the initial damage reduction, and you get like all of the armor that you get here. So it's extremely powerful. It's the main reason why we are using Frostwall. So you grab a couple of points here. Remember to always place it at least 2 meters away from you to gain more ward and more mana, especially if you are if you don't have a tier 7 scepter to make Frostclaw cost 0 mana. This is kind of really important. And then we go grab some nodes here, more damage. It costs less mana to replace, and a little bit of damage up here. Flame Ward, as I said before, we're going for the damage reduction. So it gives us a 30% less damage to you from hits just by using unspec. If you spec it even further, you have 40% less hit damage. You get 30% less elemental damage taken. We're grabbing some damage here, 250%. This fire damage is converted to cold if you grab the Frost Ward node. We're grabbing this one, and we are grabbing 800 armor here. This is huge. It's like, as if this build needed any more tankiness, but you know, why not abuse the good things that we have in this tree, right? So we're super tanky with Flame Ward. You can use this manually if you want, but usually you have it permanently with Frostwall. Next up, we have Runic Invocation. So the Runic Invocation we're using is Cold, Fire, Cold, and this one will be automatically combined for you when you're using Frostclaw because of this one rune here, Immutable Order. So this makes it so that it guarantees the order based on the order of your skill on your action bar. So from left to right, you will want to have Flame Ward, which is converted to Cold, right? You'll have Flame Rush, which is Fire, and then Frostwall, which is another Cold. So it's going to be Cold, Fire, Cold, and that is going to cast Riowind's Frostguard, which gives you 30% less damage taken, freeze rate multi, some ward on cast, and some ward per second. So it's like incredibly good. One thing that we're getting here is 4 out of 4 in copied scrolls. So this makes it that so that you have a chance to repeat per energy that you have. So sometimes you will double cast this node, giving you double the burst of ward, the initial burst of ward. We're grabbing the cast speed buff when you cast it for 4 seconds, and then we're grabbing some cooldown recovery speed for it so they can cast it more often. So that is the main thing that Runic Invocation is doing for you. On Elemental Nova, this is the proc from the Frostlaw node here. So this will proc very often. We're grabbing here and here to go to the -12 mana cost. We're trying to get this to cost the least amount of mana possible. So we're grabbing this mana cost. We're grabbing all of this for the damage. If you don't have the good mana sustain yet, feel free to remove 2 points from here and only put like 3 so that you have you don't increase the mana cost too dramatically. And then you go into Freezing Cascade, which is a nice little AoE. It will just like it's gonna do a chain reaction of Novas when this procs. And then the remainder of your points are going into Protective Strikes, right? So yeah, that is basically it. If you have the best in slot setup, you can remove some points from here and go into Arcane Protection and Survival of the Victor, but that is going to be pretty hard to obtain, as you need a good LP Crest of Unity. Yeah, it doesn't do a big difference in your tankiness, but it's like a small optimization if you do happen to have Crest of Unity. Another thing to note is that in Flame Ward early on, if you want, you can remove points from Frostguard and Infusion and grab 4 into Warmth. That will give you 100% mana regen. And before you have a tier 6 or tier 7 Scepter, this can be extremely good to sustain your mana in a more manageable way. Yes, so here I'm talking about the combination of items that will make you able to scale a ward to another level. So Twisted Heart of Eucharos is an item that on each cast, it consumes some of your health, a certain percentage, to give you a percentage of ward, right? It's converted to ward. So to be able to use this to its full potential, you need some sort of leech to refill your health pool. That is where Bleeding Heart comes in, giving you damage leeches health. So this also leeches damage off of your Frostbites. So the combination of these two will make it so that you will always leech health from enemies, so always be topped off, while casting super quickly your Frost Claws, you will consume some of that health and transfer it into ward, giving you a huge ward pool, and with no downsides because, as I said earlier, you're using Bright Frost, you cleanse all the elements, and the bleeds from Bleeding Heart won't affect you because on every cast, you will just cleanse them. So that is the main interaction that makes you scale ward to the next level. If we go into the passives here, so we're getting some pretty regular passives. Intelligence is incredibly good because it scales your ward retention, it scales your damage, it scales your cooldown, it scales the ward that you gain from Ruined Frostguard, the Cold Fire Cold Invocation. So it scales a lot of things, so you want to get as much intelligence as possible. We're grabbing intelligence, some increased damage here, and some cast speed there. In the sorcerer tree here, we're grabbing arcane momentum to get even more cast speed. As I said, we're building our damage and our ward generation off of cast speed. We're grabbing some intelligence again, and then we're using 6 points in Essence of Celerity to give us 10% movement speed. So this build is not the fastest, so any movement speed we can get is great. In the Runemaster tree, Sphere of Protection, less damage taken from ignited, shocked, or chilled enemies. This is basically absolutely free for EHP because the next one here gives you chill chance with cold skills. So basically, these two together, you will always have less damage taken from chilled enemies. Extremely good. And then this is like the main point for the build is Freezing Point. So this enables you to scale your Frostbite chance tremendously while building Armor Shred on your amulet and on your gloves. So yeah, this is like the core of the build basically. So your Armor Shred chance is transferred to Frostbite chance. We're getting some cast speed here, intelligence, ward gain on spell cast again, and you're getting intelligence again and reduced bonus damage from crits with a catalyst. So this is a new way for the mage to be able to not build critical strike avoidance, but just build reduced bonus damage from crits. So you get 48% from the passive tree, which you only need to get like close to 100%. You need to get close to cap as much as possible to like reduce the damage you take from crits. And you know, it's much better than critical strike avoidance because every single percentage that you get in here, you actually make like you get the full value out of them without having to cap. So yeah, this makes it very easy to cap your crit avoidance. Edict of the Scion, ward per rune on area skill use. So we'll always have like 3 runes on us at all times. So you will gain a ton of ward. Again, this synergizes so well. We have so many sources of ward per cast that you'll be able to stack 10, 15, 20k ward at times on yourself. Inscribed Instruments, we're using a Scepter, so we have 72% ward retention. 1 point in Never Late just to get to Rune of Dilation, giving you cast speed and move speed after using Flame Rush. We get a more damage multiplier here. We get Intelligence, and every point of Intelligence will scale your cooldown reduction, so that is very good. And our 3 last points going to Runeward Inferno. So I put 3 here for 60% chance when you use a fire skill, which is going to be Flame Rush, to gain the Runeward Inferno, which gives you more armor per stack of shock on the attacker. So this is just another way to scale your armor, basically. So that is pretty much it for the passives. So again, the skill usage and rotation, we went through this. You can read this if you want. We have some tips for mapping, bossing, use Flame Ward for emergency situations. And Frostwall is also absolutely great because it has a guaranteed freeze. So if you're ever in a tough situation, you place your Frostwall, you go through it, you get your Flame Ward damage reduction buffs, and any monster that follows you behind you will get frozen by your Frostwall. So yeah, that is just a really good defensive skill. All right, now let's go for the gearing. So as you start, you'll start with a wand, which has only -3 mana cost, right? So it's a pretty regular setup. Start with a wand, you get to the advanced gear, you get the base of the build, Snowdrift and Frostbite Shackles. You get Twisted Heart and Bleeding Heart. This will scale your ward tremendously, and this will scale your damage tremendously. So after that, you get to the endgame setup.
you're trying to get as quickly as possible a tier 7 scepter with -5 spell mana cost, so that it makes your Frostclaw cost no mana. And then you're basically smooth selling from there. So what we're trying to get here, we're scaling cast speed, we're scaling minus mana cost is just to, like I said, just to get to 0 mana cost. Freeze rate multiplier alongside the Snowdrift boots. This will scale the cold penetration with Frostbite. So any freeze rate multiplier stat that you have will scale your damage, and that is like, it will scale your damage, it will scale your CC as well. So it's incredibly good. Grab the shotgun hit to be able to benefit from the passive that we talked about, the Rune Word, which increases your armor multiplicatively. On your offhand, you want to go with an Opulent Focus to get the good ward per second and ward retention implicits. We're scaling again cast speed, cold damage, elemental damage over time. Anything that increases your cold damage will be good, or your damage over time. Freeze rate multi, poison res. On the helm, we're going for the increased frostbite effect. Well, this is actually the stat that is inscribed here is not the actual stat that is in game. This needs to be updated. It's not increased frostbite effect. It's cold penetration with frostbite now. It has been changed in a previous patch. So yeah, you want to go either cold penetration with frostbite or cold damage over time. Then chance to apply frostbite on cold hit, increased armor, increased health, and kind of important here, talking about the freeze rate per stack of chill. This is base freeze rate. So freeze rate kind of works like critical strike chance, where you have base critical strike chance, you increase your crit chance, and then you multiply those two together. Same thing for freeze rate. You have base freeze rate, and then you have freeze rate multiplier. You multiply these two together to get your total freeze rate, right? So freeze rate per stack of chill actually multiplies your base freeze rate. So it's very important if you want to try to permanently freeze bosses, for example, to have at least some freeze rate per stack of chill. Chill stacks 3 times, so you can get like up to 3 times this number. You can get this on the body armor as well. So same thing for the body armor, but we get here 45% reduced bonus damage taken from critical strikes. And then after this, we only need a little bit more to get to 100%. So we seal it on the belt. We get freeze rate multiplier on the belt, LA damage over time, health and health as usual. Movement speed on the boots, chance to shred armor on the gloves, as we talked about the passive that converts armor shred to frostbite chance. Same thing goes on the amulet, armor shred to frostbite chance. We get a frailty on hit. On our relic, we go +4 to Frostclaw to be able to invest more points into the Frostclaw tree. You could also go for other things like cast speed here. So cast speed would be nice on the relic. For our rings, we'll use 1 ivory ring for the implicit necrotic resistance, and we also get ward retention, which we can make use of, so it's very nice. Freeze rate multiplier, LA damage over time, health, and LA res. Freeze rate multiplier, same thing here, except physical and LA res. And we seal mana regen. This is to make it smoother. Like, it's, I would have sealed intelligence, but like a tier 1 sealed intelligence is like pretty bad. Like, there's no good value to sealing 1 intelligence. It's better value to seal mana regen and make it smoother. Especially if you don't have a tier 7 spell mana cost, like minus spell mana cost. So that pretty much covers the equipment. If we go into the idols, we have a Throne of Ambition, giving you 2% more cold damage per stack of Ambition. So this stacks up to a maximum of 20 stacks, giving you a ton of damage. And you also get more armor per stack, so scaling your tankiness as well at the same time. And the 3 idols here are the same. They have chance to apply Frostbite on cold hit, and chance to gain Lightning Aegis. Lightning Aegis is another damage reduction stat. So as you can see, we're trying to scale as many damage reduction buffs that we can to be as tanky as possible with this build. So that pretty much covers the idols. In the blessing, the important ones, you want to go for Void Resistance. I'm going to go in here because it's easier to see. Void Res here. Want to go for Freeze Rate Multi. You go for All Res and the 2 armor ones. These are incredibly good to scale your armor. The 320 flat armor is absolutely huge, and it synergizes super well with the other Bulwark of the Tundra for 70% armor. These are pretty much almost mandatory to be able to be as tanky as possible. Although you could go for Frostbite on hit here, and yeah, you could go for Frostbite on hit here if you really wanted to like scale your damage to another level. But I would rather go with the increased armor to have more survivability. Yeah, so that pretty much covered the blessings, the idols, and everything like that. So let's go into the build scaling here. You have 2 tabs here, one for damage, one for defense, if you want to see what's exactly what stats that we are scaling. But I've already talked about pretty much all of them. You have some recommendations for monoliths, dungeons, and endless arena. So giving you small tips and tricks as to what you could do and what you're looking for and how you should try to progress. And then at the end, we have the loot filter here, which you can download here. If you do right click, save link as, you save it as an XML, and you paste that into your loot filter folder, you will have the one that one in game. So that pretty much covers it, guys. You have a small summary of the build here. The video is the one I'm gonna do right now, and if you have any questions, please put them in the comments. I will be here. I will read all of the comments. I will answer you guys if you have any questions. I am also streaming on Twitch from Monday to Friday, and sometimes in the weekend as well. Usually in the morning Eastern time. Usually starts about at 9 a.m. Eastern. Yeah, I'm pretty much every day on Twitch there. If you like this video, please leave a like, subscribe, do a comment, write a comment. It just helps me tremendously. And if you want to support me, that is like one of the best ways. And yeah, I hope you have a lot of fun with this build. It's an incredibly powerful build. I would not be surprised if there were some small changes post 1.0 to kind of like bring its power down a little bit, because right now I'm going to say it's an absolute powerhouse. It feels like you are invincible and you deal an absolute ton of damage. So thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next video.